Message from the past, Reincarnation of Evil. What's up with JD Vance? And the resistance will win. Let's dive into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name's Trevor. So, when I was in my early 20s, I went to Washington, D.C., essentially by myself, but with a group of college kids that were going to the same event as me. And I decided to go to the Holocaust Museum, and I went by myself. And I recommend it. I do recommend going by yourself or with somebody you really are close with, not with just casual friends. And the way it works is, or at the time, the way it worked was you're in a small group of people that went. It was like 5 or 6 people. You did the tour, and then that was it. And I was with a group that contained an older gentleman. I believe his name was Sasha. So we'll call him Sasha. I could have that wrong, but I think that's right. And as we're touring through and looking at various things, it's very clear that he is upset and has a story to tell, as were several of the other people in that group. And then we got to, in the Holocaust Museum, there's a train car and it's full of shoes, just old shoes that had been recovered from various camps. And this man, who probably was in his 70s, maybe even a little bit older, I think mid 70s, just started crying uncontrollably. And he grabbed me and he hugged me, which was fine. And he said that I looked like his brother who had died in one of the camps. And I'll never forget that experience. It's ingrained in me to this day. Um, and we chatted a little bit after the tour, and he told me a little bit more. And then at one point in time during the conversation afterwards, he just said, I'm done. I don't want to talk about that anymore. And then he asked some questions about me. And and then we parted ways, and I never saw him again until my grandmother died in the late 2000 teens. And he appeared in spirit form. And I couldn't recognize his face, but he had a very distinct smell to him. He smoked some sort of European cigarette, and he wore some sort of cologne that I had never smelled before. So I would recognize that smell anywhere. And he appeared uh, the day of my grandmother's funeral, the night of, I should say, and just sent off this like glowing kind of healing energy. And then he appeared yesterday night, last night, early this morning. I'm recording this on Saturday, February 15th. And this time he showed me a little bit more, and you could tell from his, so when I see people that have crossed over, I don't make out faces. I can never see those. It's just more like a light, and sometimes I can smell things. And here I could smell. That's why I knew it was this particular person. And this person has been so ingrained as part of my philosophy of life almost, that he showed me some images. Um, and the first image that he showed me, and this is for entertainment purposes only, was he showed me a guard that a German guard. We're not going to use the N word because we don't want to get censored by YouTube and the four-letter N word ending in I. Um, he showed me a guard and it morphed into the same sort of energy that I felt when I was reading on Elon Musk, and I immediately got a horrible headache, the same headache in the same spot. It was like, almost behind the ears. It's like it's a memorable feeling. And he also showed me an image, and this one I think I know what's going on, but I'm not quite sure. He showed me like another image, I think of a similar nature of someone in the German army morphing into someone in present day. And I believe that, and for entertainment purposes only, obviously, I believe that was Peter Thiel. Now, I don't know a ton about Peter Thiel other than he's rich and he supported JD Vance and yada, yada, yada. Then he showed me two more images. Uh, One was a paper drawing of a man, like a kind of a, gingerbread cookie shaped man with the word Vance written in it. And then it would, the image on the paper would change colors. And I think the point of that image, as best as I can tell and through the interaction, was that JD Vance can either be good or bad. Like, JD Vance is like the 7-year-old German kid in 19 in the 1930s, where he might get a choice to be good, he might be forced to be bad. Um, that might be a controversial statement, and I certainly don't mean it to be one, but um, the speech in Munich that he gave was very disturbing, but I think it was about him trying to grandstand Musk. Now, he's never going to succeed at that, but let's look into that. And then the last image that I was shown, it was just very, very clear. It was a red hashtag resistance wins. So I think overall the world is going to be okay, but I think we're going to go through some dark times. A viewer commented on my last video that she and her son watch and that they felt that I was holding back some information when I was reading on Putin's war and stuff. And the truth is, maybe I was, right? I was feeling a lot of uh, the emotions that go along with war. Um, the death, the destruction, the despair. And it didn't feel completely relevant to the reading, but I think that's what sometimes these things are very hard to read on when you feel them viscerally, and you have to separate that from to protect yourself. You have to separate that. So now let's start with the question about JD Vance, and then we'll move into uh, what's the deal with Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, and is their goals similar to the goals that were held in the late 30s and early 40s in Germany? So, can you please show us clearly? Was JD Vance's speech in Munich about trying to get attention from the felon? And does he actually believe those things? So I'm being shown the devil card in the water. I think that is, he does not believe these things. It's just mis and disinformation to keep his political position. So this was his plan to get back into the felon spotlight. One plan doesn't work, try another. Uh, the challenge is the message isn't getting through because it doesn't contain any money. There's no monetary value for the felon. There's no, and now monetary value can mean two different things, right? I mean, well, it can mean multiple different things, but it could mean, he's not getting anything out of it. By appeasing Musk, he's keeping some information secret. By, I don't know how much of a relationship he has with Peter Thiel. I don't think it's as extensive as with Musk, but that's what probably is meant by money here. Uh, Underneath, we get illusion and delusion. JD Vance is completely delusional if he thinks he's going to win over the felon while Musk is still in the picture. It's not going to happen. In the past, we have the truth. So the truth is that, you know, the felon is an opportunist and he is being manipulated. I think I've used the word blackmailed, um, into doing things. And so it's in the past. So JD Vance, I don't think is aware of it. I think this kind of probably all started to come together, around the insurrection time in 2016 into 2017. We get the Ten of Pentacles in the sky. JD Vance is ultimately going to inherit the presidency. The cards have always said that. And no, they're not going to bypass him. I mean, we're still going to be following the Constitution. I don't see that ending, although it is definitely a real fear and it is a reasonable fear to have. So the Ten of Pentacles is about inheritance, it's also about wealth and having everything that you need, but passing things down from generation to generation is more the way I see it. And this just feels like he's going to inherit the presidency. We get giving and receiving in the near future. This is going to happen soon. He's going to be handed over power. Then it's a question of what happens. So that blank kind of cookie cutter drawing on a white piece of paper is now very relevant. Is JD Vance going to be manipulated by the others? I think we already see some Republican senators pulling back. Mitch McConnell, too, my predictions voted against a lot of the nominees, which I think one person called me crazy for thinking that Mitch McConnell was going to go against the grain, but, um, and that's okay. You can call me crazy. It's fine. Um, but be respectful in the comments. I do delete them if they're disrespectful, and particularly of other people in the community. So that blank slate is going to come into play. Will he have the strength? Will he have the strength to stand up for what's right? I don't think he believes anything he says right now. He's just an opportunist. We get temperance. This is a good sign. Moderation, protection, the angel overlooking us. The hopes and fears is we're at a crossroads and that we take a different road. Now, that's a hope for most of us. That's possibly a fear for the faction that is wanting to push these sort of 1930s, 1940s German policies of, attacking the elderly and the disabled and various things. And ultimately, we're going to end up with the Wheel of Fortune. It's just a question of which way the wheel's going to spin. If JD Vance takes over the White House, which way is he going to let the wheel go? Will he have the strength? And I think he will. Because we get the justice card. Now, I don't think he's going to be a great president, so don't misunderstand me. I don't think he's going to go out there and do really great things for the people. But what I do think is he's going to start to put the train back on the tracks. And this nonsense that he's been spouting, he'll backtrack on that just like he backtracked on calling the felon America's German leader from the 30s and 40s. Because ultimately, it's going to be about judgment. And he's not going to want to be judged in the same vein as the felon, because things are going to come out about the felon after he takes over, I think. That's the way I've seen it. Underneath, we have the chariot. I think this will be forward movement. We get the Hierophant. This is the courts and the church, which and we get the hermit. I'm going to go back to the Hierophant here in just a second. And we get the hermit, which is feeling isolated and alone, which also makes me really think that he is going to go it alone and maybe not be who people think he's going to be. But I can be right, I can be wrong. This card really draws my attention because I've been thinking about this for the past, oh, whenever the news broke that the Pope has been in the hospital with bronchitis. I do think this is the last year of Pope Francis, and that's in my 2025 predictions. I think he will get replaced with a pope that is a person of color, either from Africa or Asia. And I think that might help make headways into getting more um, points of view into the world leadership. So uh, the Pope does, technically doesn't have a ton of power politically, but I mean, I think it's like 1.2 billion Catholics on the planet, and a lot of them are centralized in developing nations or nations that quite aren't there to like the G20 level in South America, Africa, and like the Philippines, places like that. So okay. So um I think JD Vance might surprise us. I'm going to stick with that. I hope I'm right. I certainly can be wrong. Okay. So let's just straight up ask the question, does Elon Musk hold similar views to the leader of Germany that was the leader in the late 30s into the early 40s and then stopped being leader around, I guess, was it 1945? Does Elon Musk hold those similar views? Sure feels like he does. He met with the far right party, so did JD Vance, but again, I think that's Vance trying to upstage Musk. Or wanting to shuffle my narrative. So he said some very Islamophobic comments in the past. He referred to people that live off of government assistance as, I can't remember the word that he used, very offensive something class. So the tip of my tongue, I just the penny class, maybe something like that. Um, it feels like he doesn't like people on Social Security, which is ironic considering he gets more money from the government than any of us ever will. So it does feel like he holds similar views to that of the German leader of the 30s and into the early 40s. That feels better. Seeing the Five of Cups, which is about loss, but I feel like that's about a bruised ego. I think I read something about his family being very pro-apartheid. So something happened to him, and he started developing these views. I don't think he had them the whole time. It's almost like he got radicalized. Um, yeah, the challenge is for the world here is this dark energy, this manifestation. There are people that want to manifest that time period back into existence, and we need to be careful about that. I don't think it's going to happen, so I don't think we need to be alarmists. But two major arcanas and 0 to 1, so there's a progression. The Fool's the 0 card, the Magician's the 1 card. Um, we get families, reunions, and celebrations underneath. Sometimes this gives a feeling of nostalgia. If you look at the imagery, it's a family camping or sitting around a campfire. It's like he longs for this nostalgic place where perhaps, you know, white people still ruled South Africa and had an upper hand. And the past is the Ace of Pentacles. So some new start happened. I think that was the end of the apartheid. We get the truth coming forward. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that there's a bunch of writings that he did, um, or has done recently, even that come out. But I think it's most likely it's going to be from 20 years ago, things that he wrote that might come out, expressing this favorable view for the apartheid and maybe others. We get the Four of Pentacles in the near future. What I got from this card when I pulled it is this sitting in the chair with all the money is the felon, and Elon is the representation of death behind him. He is going to take down Donald or take down the felon one way or another. That's what immediately came to mind when I pulled that card. You get the card for families, the voters, marriages, relationships. Here's the devil card. Makes sense. Mis and disinformation. Um, that's what he's all about. He's all about creating a smoke screen so that we don't concentrate on what's important. It's kind of like, um, what happened in the election. It's like, okay, let's force young people to concentrate on the atrocities in Gaza, which is important to concentrate on. Yet, it's not like the president really could control that, right? And the president, of course, wasn't running for reelection. So it was just a smokescreen. And he played both sides of the fence, right? He played it from the Arab side and then he played it from the Jewish side. So he's just all about creating confusion so that he can get away with things. Just like he's attacking government spending, yet he's taking a bunch of money. The hopes and fears is the hermit card that a light will be shed on this craziness. That's the hope. And that he'll be left isolated. And we get circles of support and celebrations. We get choices. We're at a crossroads. And we get wounded in battle. The Five of Swords. Underneath, we have that fiery new beginning, maybe fiery new leadership, uh, with judgment, and then an offer coming in with the Queen of Pentacles. Sorry if I got those out of frame for a second. Um, I think he holds similar views. I don't think they're as extreme as the leader of Germany in the 30s and early 40s, but he holds similar views of there are groups of people that are superior to other groups of people. I think he holds those views. And for entertainment purposes only. Okay, so I don't know too much about Peter Thiel and how he's going about in this administration. I know he financed JD Vance's Senate campaign. So I know some, I'm not completely in the dark, but um, what do we need to know about Peter Thiel? What do we need to know about Peter Thiel? So, the devil card seems to be the common theme today. It's abuse of power. I think he wants power. I think he's addicted to having power. I think didn't he at one time want to set up his own nation state in the ocean on a boat, um, so that he could rule? I feel like he's an opportunist too. He's got a similar vibe to Vance. We got the chariot card. Let's see if that pops out. If you've looked at some of my other readings, you know what the chariot card sometimes represents with respect to the felon and some of his circles of friends. I wonder, two of pentacles, juggling money, juggling trying to get power, trying to figure out how to get relevant. The problem is judgment. I think he's a gay man, right? So I think, and probably JD Vance is too for entertainment purposes only. I think the problem is getting into that circle of friends because of that is a little bit tricky. We get the Ten of Pentacles underneath. This is his vast wealth. He has more money than he ever needed. At the past, we get the King of Wands. So this is him making his money through some various ways. If one plan doesn't succeed, try another, planting seeds. Okay, we get the Hierophant in the near future. This is the courts, the government. He's trying to make his way in. I think he might make his way into the government. There's a lot of anxiety around this from him. I'm feeling this is his anxiety. We get the Ace of Wands. So again, I feel like this is the like new leadership. I think this is, perhaps Vance stepping in, and then that's when he might appear. We get bombshells and surprises in the hopes and fears. I think the hope is that I think he's done so for entertainment purposes. I think he's done some really bad things in his past that we don't know about. I don't want to get into it because it's pretty salacious. And we get circles of support and celebrations. Okay. Coming to a crossroads. These are all very similar outcome cards to the last reading. And we get the King of Swords. The King of Swords is being handed the truth. Um, so he might have a short-lived experience in the government. The Queen of Swords, yeah, it's going to be his ultimate downfall. Like this, it's weird, but people who do bad things that are rich and want power never seem to realize that when they get in the public eye is when the things come out and it creates a downfall. Just similar to the felon, right? I mean, the felon could have never ran for president. A lot of people of us still wouldn't have liked him, but we wouldn't have as horrible opinion as we do now. Um, so complete and utter downfall, and we get death. So the end of something, the start of something. So I don't think if he gets into the government, it's going to end well. And by into the government, I just mean getting a bigger voice and influence. I don't think he's actually going to hold a position in the government. Okay, the last thing that I was shown was the resistance wins thing. So let's read on that and then let's pull some cards from the angels and ancestors since we got that visit from Sasha. I think that's the appropriate oracle deck to pull some cards from. So let's just do a spread on first on the resistance. Will the resistance be able to successfully overcome what's going on around the world and in particularly in the United States to minimize the damage done so that we can get the train back on the track? Will the resistance ultimately win? I think so. I'm getting an image from the movie Braveheart. I don't think it's going to come to that. I don't think that there's going to be weapons drawn or anything. So we feel like we're in a pit of despair. If you feel this way, take some time for yourself. Ignore the news for a while. Um, if you're really in despair, there are hotline numbers that you can Google. Please do so. The problem is the resistance doesn't quite have enough strength, but the strength is building. The more that he does to make people mad, including Republicans, um, the better this resistance movement will be. Right now, we're in that state of despair. We're in that state of anxiety. This is perfectly normal. But remember something about anxiety. Anxiety lies to you. It does. It makes you imagine the worst possible things that, I mean, they could happen, but probably they're not going to. Anxiety lies to you. So if you're somebody suffering with anxiety, there's certainly help out there. Um, medical help, and don't be ashamed about it. I mean, I suffer with anxiety. And the thing I have learned is that anxiety lies to you. It tells you you can't do this, you can't do that. So that's where the resistance is at in this we can't go forward, we can't. But it's a lie. We can. Because anxiety is just a lie. Okay, the towers in the past. This was the, various events that have taken place over the last month, 2 months, 3 months. Okay, we have a message coming forward about money. I think we might start to see some more organization. I think in this case, the Pentacle represents organization. Okay, good. We get fiery new leadership coming forward, passion, and this is in the near future, coming together. That's a very good sign. Circles of support forming, and particularly around money, distributing funds in the appropriate spots to be the most effective. We get giving and receiving, fundraising is going to pick up. Democrats are going to start announcing they're running for certain offices. That's going to help. Um, I also think Mark Cuban might run for president, but that's a different reading. The fear, though, is the Five of Pentacles, and again, this is just a fear. The fear is that everything has already been lost, but it's a fear. It's not reality. It hasn't manifested, and it won't, provided we can get over the anxiety lying to us. And someone in the comments posted that they've been calling their representative and senators do that. That app, Five Calls, it's great. Um, Even if your representative is a Republican, even if your senators are both Republicans, you can still call them and just ask them, since when did Elon Musk get elected president? Get them to think. The Five Calls also, by the way, gives you a script to read for certain topics, so you don't even have to come up with your own words. So I would encourage you to look at that. Okay. And good. We get a new beginning around money and health. I think this is the health of the country, the health of the world. And we start planting seeds for future generations. These are cards we've been consistently getting. And then we get death and rebirth. And in particular, it might be a death that causes the rebirth, but I think the world will be born anew, and our priorities will get back on track. It's going to take hard work. It's going to take some money, but the money's there to help us. It's the Nine of Pentacles, and then steady leadership. Uh, I'm just really drawn to Mark Cuban lately. I don't know if anybody follows him on Blue Sky or other places where he posts things, but it's like he's almost laying out a blueprint for what the Democrats should be doing. Um, I don't know too much else about him, so I'm not endorsing him or anything. Yeah, let's just pull a few cards from the Angels and Ancestors deck. I heard the word two, so two. It's two cards on what we should do to keep calm, carry on, and resist. Two cards of what we should do to keep calm, carry on, and resist. A friend of mine told me that she's been watching some old television shows that are very calm and soothing. I recommend that. You can't help anybody else if you can't help yourself, right? Maybe that sounded sardonic, but if you're not in a healthy place, how can you help others, right? So one of the things I do is I find various shows that just bring me a sense of calm, whether that's there's a pottery competition on HBO Max. It's a British reality show. It's very calming. The competitors are very supportive of each other. That's something I've been doing. Um, to, what do we need to know to resist, carry on? And this is one of them. This is the other. Okay. Okay. So this is the high priest. It says, intend and create. So manifest is what this is saying. It's saying envision what you want the world to look like. Don't focus on what it is now. Focus on what you want it to be and create it into reality. And the other one we get is Lady. And it says, enjoy growth and reap rewards. So I think this is about getting ready for the fight and enjoy the inner growth of dealing with all these new emotions that we didn't think we were going to have to deal with, and getting ready to reap the rewards of what's going to happen when we all come together, and everything will be okay. I've always felt that. I've never seen anything other than that. So anyhow, thanks for watching, and please like, share, subscribe, and I'll post another video soon.